Ohio State returns to the field on Saturday for the second half of its season. They'll start it off with Penn State on Saturday, and what is no longer a ranked opponent like we maybe thought it was going to be in the before the season started. Now it's a number one team in the country versus a team still looking for its first Power Four win since its college football playoff run last season. I'm Stephen, that's Stefan, and that's Andrew. Andrew, we're going to start with you. Ohio State, a 20.5 point favorite with an over and under of 44.5. What's your game score?
Ohio State is 28, Penn State 10. I think this is going to be a real rock fight for a little bit. I think we talk so much about, what Ohio State has done this year and, kind of the domination that they've put on teams. They're 6-1 against the spread. And that, I think that's a decent barometer of saying like, hey, they're dominating teams like you should think, right? They've covered the spread against everybody except Ohio, and they won that game by 28 points, and the line closed at 28 and a half. So like it was not like Ohio showed up or this team showed up. Like Ohio State dominates teams, but I think Ohio State's going to dominate Penn State on the field. I just think it's going to be one of those things where we did this at Wisconsin, where we looked up at the scoreboard and we're like, this is 17 nothing, and it feels like 70 to nothing. I think it's going to be one of those games. I don't think Penn State's going to do much of anything offensively. I think they're going to have some stuff up their sleeve. They've had an extra week to get ready for a second-year quarterback in Ethan Grunkmeyer. They've had a bye week to process the firings and the mess that program has been this year. And I think Penn State, they're going to show up motivated, which is why in one of our videos – also on this YouTube channel, I said, I think Ohio State needs to start fast. Just squash that immediately. Keep Penn State down. Don't let them get any kind of motivation. I think Penn State's going to show up, and we talk about Ohio State wanting to stick it to Knowles. Penn State probably wants to stick it to Ohio State and play some spoiler. Do I think it's going to matter? No. I think Ohio State's going to dominate this team. I think it's going to be, a 21-3 type of game the whole way. Ohio State's up by 2-3 scores the whole thing. And I think Penn State might get a backdoor cover out of this one. So I have 28-10. We're going under again. I think the defense for Ohio State just dominates and suffocates Penn State. But I think Penn State will show up early enough and just muddy the waters, make it annoying enough for Ohio State to where Ohio State wins this game by 18 points. So we got a Penn State cover, but it's not a close game, which is crazy to say, like you said, Stephen, from maybe what we would have thought a couple of months ago. But Ohio State wins this game pretty comfortably, 28-10.
Stefan, what's your game score?
Yeah, I'm leading all the way into it. 42-7. Ohio State wins.
Dang it.
I think Penn State will have some tricks up its sleeve. I think Allen is a good running back, and I think they'll find a way to at least have one drive on offense where they good for you. I think, like you were talking about with that Wisconsin game, where you look up and it's already a blowout, and it's 17 to nothing, and you're like, it feels like it's more. I think that's going to happen, but I think Ohio State will keep its foot on the pedal because it has a motivating factor on the other sideline to keep its foot on the pedal. I think Ohio State's going to try to run it up. I think Ohio State's going to be aggressive in its passing attack. And I think Ohio State's going to find some explosives in its running game. I think this is going to be about as all-around effort for Ohio State offensively as we've seen this season. I think they're just going to cruise. Gillis, I think you're 100% right. I think Penn State's going to come into this game with a heightened confidence than what you would expect for a team in the position. I think between the bye week and the level of competition that they're going against, that there will be a little bit of a spark and that kind of nothing to lose, let's be spoiler mentality. And then I think it's going to be 7-0, and they're going to be like, oh, we don't belong on the field with this football team. I just think Ohio State's that much better. I think it's going to be pretty quick to mentally get this Penn State team out of it. So I'm going pretty dominant fashion. 42-7, Ohio State wins. Ohio State covers and the overhits. And I think the betting model has been Ohio State cover and bet the under. So I'm gonna stick with the Ohio State cover, but I think maybe we get the over finally.
For the record, Andrew, you're saying Ohio State's only going to score 28 points this year. That would be the third least amount of points they've scored all year. They scored 14 on Texas and only 24 on Washington. And then Penn State scores 10 points. That'll only be the second time this year a team has scored 10 or more points, and Ohio State, Illinois scoring 16 a couple of weeks ago in a game where they kind of cheesed their way into those last 7 points of that game, Stefan, if you remember, because Brad Bielema was very good at, I'm going to make this game look closer than it ever actually was.
Hey, get those backdoor points, King.
Yeah, you got to love those, man, because style, points, and perception is everything. I said, dang it, because that was my score. And I promise you I'm not changing it because I gave my score to the guys over at Penn Live already, and it's published on Wednesday. So I've been locked into the score since Tuesday.
I did not read that, I promise.
No, I know. That's why. Here's the deal. I think the score of the game is 35-7. I think Ryan Day's comments on Tuesday made me add 7 more points. Because as we talked about on the Wednesday, but I think that's what that quote of him saying we try to not take these things personally, but we're human. I think that line is worth another touchdown that they don't have to go get, but they did it anyway. Part of the reason they only scored 24 points on Washington is because if you remember early in the game, they got down into the red zone and just kind of spoiled it away. Right? They did the same thing against Minnesota. They did the same thing against Illinois. Even against Wisconsin, the same thing sort of happened where they had one of those early drives where they probably should have ended up with a touchdown and they didn't get a touchdown out of the drive. I don't think that's happening. I think one of the underrated things that maybe we didn't ask about this week because we were so worried about right guard and, hey, Jim Knowles is coming back to Columbus. How do you feel about that? Is Ohio State's red zone on offense. It's gradually gotten better week by week, and I think this is an opportunity to put that all together for Ohio State, and they start driving on teams. Maybe you see some explosive passing plays as well. But listen, Penn State's not a good football team. They have talent. They are not a good football team. I'm giving them 7 points simply because they have talent, and when you have 2 weeks to prepare for a team, maybe you have something up your sleeve where you just get Matt Patricia. The same way that Illinois, after failing to score on the 1-yard line a couple of times, they had a really neat play that got them into the end zone, and they showed Matt Patricia's like, all right, well.
Nice play.
Everybody gets got sometimes. And I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a type of touchdown where Matt Patricia didn't do anything wrong. The defense didn't do anything wrong. It's just you had 2 weeks to prepare, and you got. Fine. That's made the score 28-7. But 42-7 for Ohio State because I think they score 35 points because I don't think Penn State can do anything about them scoring 35 points. And then I think they get another touchdown because they're human. And this is the second year in a row where Ryan Day lost an assistant coach who left abruptly and went to a Big Ten rival. Tony Alford went to Michigan in the middle of spring practice last year. Jim Knowles is actively finalizing that he's leaving for Penn State while Ohio State's trying to celebrate winning a national title. And it's okay for Ryan Day to take that personally and to want to do something about it. Even if he doesn't go out of his way, he doesn't have to score 70 points on Saturday. But just a little something where it's very obvious we go, did you need to score a touchdown right there? No, but I'm a human being and I'm ticked off at the coordinator on the other side. I'm going to stick it to him. So that's all that is. So, yes, cover and an over for me, cover and an over for Stefan. Penn State, backdoor cover and an under for Andrew Gillis. I just want to give people an update on what our records are right now against these things because we don't always do that. Stefan and I are 7-0. Andrew is 6-1 with overall just picking the winner. His loser was obviously he picked Texas to win in week 1, and he's picked Ohio State every week since because why wouldn't he? All of us are 6-1 against the spread. Good job, guys. We're good at this. We all suck at the over-under. I'm 3-4 with the over-under. Stefan and Andrew are 4-3 with the over-under. We started with 100 Buckeye Talk.
Sounds like one of us sucks at the over-under. We're above 500. That's winning, baby.
Steven, hey, well, you can't say Penn State stinks and then you have the same record as Penn State at picking the over-under.
And yeah, you know what? You saw it. You saw signs of it in the non-conference schedule that I was going to be terrible. If you saw that. But we start with 100 Buckeye Talk tokens at the beginning of the year. I am up to 166. I've been going hard on the Ohio State's going to cover, and so that's why I've gotten to 166. I've been betting like 25 tokens the last couple of weeks. Stefan, you have 132. Gillis, you have 118. And that's because you went heavy, I think, a couple of weeks ago. You were under 100, and then you went heavy one week, and it got you back above. So all of us are in the plus.
Let's go.
Yeah, we're making money this year. Good for us.
As long as Ohio State is 6-0 or 6-1 against the spread, we're cruising.
Yeah, let's see what happens in November. Get the text 614-350-3315 with the 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, those are our game scores for Ohio State versus Penn State on Saturday. We typically are, if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a full pod where we just talked about a bunch of different stuff. We talked about the game. We talked about some big picture stuff with Penn State. Go check that out as well. Typically, we will do some other games, but we went so long on the first part, and we've already done a bunch of pods that were an hour and a half this week, that this is going to be it. This is it for this week. Ohio State, Penn State on Saturday as Ohio State returns to the field from its second bye week of the season. This is also the last game before the first college football playoff ranking, so obviously we'll be deep diving into that after this game. We're going live after the game as well, so go join us on this YouTube channel. And again, get the text 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. For Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you guys after the game.